Hi there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. Excuse me, got something in my throat. I know I am doing extremely well, apart from this in my throat. Sorry about that. Today I'm going to talk about one very, very important thing that not a lot of people talk about, to be honest with you. I've seen very, very few videos on YouTube, especially about this element of playing any instrument. Actually, it's not just specifically for guitar players. This is any instrument, and that is being able to control tension, relaxation. It's extremely important in order to play the guitar effectively, and it's something that I practice on a daily basis, every single day. Before I start blasting into things, I'll make sure I'm dialing in just the right amount of tension that I need. And basically over the years I've kind of been able to find the sweet spot for that tension and dial it in relatively quickly. But still now, even after all these years, I still have to remind myself exactly what it is. So it's a constant thing, and it should be part of your practice routine every single day. If it isn't, it's highly advisable for you to start thinking about it now. So let me show you a fantastic tip in order to sort of gauge how much tension we need to create a good sounding note. I have discussed this before, but it's really, really important to keep going over this so that you implement it into your practice routine on a daily basis. So a lot of the time guitar players tend to use way too much tension in order to play, and most guys run out of steam pretty early, especially when it comes to playing something demanding. What happens is you'll tense up because there's a psychological element of playing something difficult can be hard to overcome, and as a result you tense up and completely screw the part up and lose control. And ideally we don't want that. We want to be in complete control over whatever we play, whether it's a slow tempo or fast tempo, whether we're playing something simple or something complex. We want to approach it in the same way. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you this little tip in order to gauge how much tension you're applying to the strings. So we're just going to play a normal G note on the bottom E string, 3rd fret. Okay, this is how you would play it normally. So what I want you to do is take a mental snapshot of how much pressure you're applying to the string to get that note to sound. Okay, got it? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go in reverse. Well, not in reverse, but we're going to gradually play the string until we get just the right amount of tension needed in order to get a good sounding note. So no more and no less. Okay, so the way we do that is we hover over the 3rd fret and we just continually play with the picking hand and push down very gradually until we get just the right amount of tension needed to create a good note. So that is ideally the amount of tension that we want to kind of dial in, especially when we're warming into our guitar playing, when we're warming up. Now, if you're anything like me and 99.9% of players out there, you'll notice that there's a big difference between how you first played it and how you played it with this little exercise here. There's a lot of wasted tension there. So hopefully that's a bit of an eye-opener. And I use it every single day just to remind myself, because it's very easy to slip back into the old way of doing things and tensing up, way too much. We need to be in control of the tension, not the other way round. The tension shouldn't control us. So, okay, good. What we're going to do now is apply it to, I used kind of like a little practice warm-up pattern. I'll show you what the pattern is. I'm going to play it one of 3 ways. This is generally how I play my scales and arpeggios. So, here's the pattern. Okay, firstly I'll pick every note. Then I will follow that with standard legato technique. So I will pick the first note on every new string, then hammer on and pull off the rest. Then I will do left hand only. So those are the 3 techniques, the main techniques that I use. So here I just picked every note. So if I do this pattern slowly, good. So when I'm playing this, I want to make sure, especially when I speed up, that I don't start applying excess tension in order to play the notes, because it's not needed. Okay, so to start with, we don't worry about speed. We work on controlling the amount of tension we're applying to the strings. Okay, that feels really good. I feel really in control there, because I feel completely and utterly relaxed with both the left and right hands. Okay, it feels very, very relaxed. Don't want to play it too fast. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with standard legato. So I'm going to pick, hammer, hammer, pick, 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 and then when descending, hammer from nowhere. Okay? Again, concentrating on not necessarily the notes that I'm playing at all, really. It's about controlling the tension and make sure I'm using the lightest touch possible. Notice how clean it is as well, no extraneous noise, strings ringing off. When I use the pick, when I'm using standard legato technique, I try and minimize the pick attack, so keep it really light. Again, nice and clean. So the final version is hammers only. Okay, that was all left hand, and again I'm concentrating on only applying just the right amount of tension. Okay, really, really important this. Again, notice how clean it sounds. No noise whatsoever. I've got a decent amount of gain. Okay, good. So we don't really want to necessarily concentrate on speed. That's not the point of this little lesson here. The point is, the thing that I want you to take away is being able to control the tension you apply when you're playing these exercises. This is just one kind of warm-up example of the kind of line that I use when I warm up. So you can apply this to anything. You can apply it to just a straight ahead minor pentatonic scale. But the key is, I'm doing all hammers here. Okay, the key is making sure the movement is nice and light. Like, I know as soon as I've dialed in that right amount of tension, it just feels perfect. You know, I'm so relaxed when I play, and it kind of feels like I can play anything when I've you know, I'm as relaxed as that. But obviously we need a certain amount of tension to play. That's common sense. But we've got to kind of balance it. It's about balancing it so that it becomes really, really effective for guitar playing. And you know, this isn't specific to guitar playing, like I said before. You know, classical performers, classical instrumentalists use relaxation techniques all the time in order to perform. You know, when I was at music school, it was a huge, huge part of development as a musician, as a classical instrumentalist. So relaxation technique, very important, and this is kind of like a relaxation technique, you know. Anyway, this is something I practice every single day, and something that I feel is often overlooked when it comes to guitar playing. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you did, click the like button. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys. So, legato technique, just a couple of words before you head straight on into the examples. One of the most important elements of legato technique that I practice is left-hand hammers from nowhere. And it's not just hammering on. What I usually do is a combination of hammers and pull-offs, but whenever I change string, I'll hammer on from nowhere. So it's a good idea if you try these licks, as many of these licks as possible, using that technique, because I feel that it will really, really help you progress in terms of legato technique. It's certainly helped me, and I'm going to sort of impart the information that I've learned. So if you can, try and apply that hammers from nowhere technique to all of these licks. All right, let's get to it. Hi there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well. I know, I am. Today we're going to take a look at 5 essential 7th arpeggio shapes that you really should know. I've been using these shapes for many years, and I kind of use these shapes as a template and then add notes to them to create different lines. So I use these kind of arpeggios all the time. And what we're going to do is we're going to start in we're going to keep everything in one tonal center. So we're going to keep everything in E, and we're going to play them in the same area of the fretboard. So in other words, root on the 5th string. Okay, so every single arpeggio we're going to play in this position. But what happens with each arpeggio, I'm going to put them in a specific order. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a major 7th arpeggio shape, then we're going to do a dominant 7th arpeggio shape, then minor 7, then minor 7 flat 5, then diminished 7th. So I always like to keep them in that specific order. It just makes a lot more sense, way more logical. Okay, so let's get straight to it. What we're going to do is we're going to start with an E major 7, and this is really the template upon which all the other shapes, the other formulas are based, okay, because the other arpeggios are simply just an alteration of this one shape, okay, one arpeggio. So we're going to start here, fret 7, and we're going to play. Okay. Okay, so that's our first shape. You'll notice, if you already know your arpeggios, that I'm actually playing 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, so all I'm doing is substituting the root for the 9th. Purely because it's a real pain in the backside to play that shape. You should be able to do it technically, but I really much prefer substituting the root for the 9th, okay? But it's still generally a major 7th arpeggio. That's how I view it, okay? So, nice and slowly, so we go. A string, 7, 11, then D string, 9, G string, 8, 11, B string, 9, top E string, 7, 11, okay? I'll talk about the way that we can articulate these a little bit later on. So that's our first arpeggio shape. Okay, so our second arpeggio shape, it's still a major type triad, but what we're going to do is we're going to take the 7th degree of that major 7th arpeggio and just lower it, and that gives us a dominant chord. So the formula for that is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So we're taking the original 7th degree, which is diatonic to that key, and we're going to lower it by a step. We're also going to do the same thing that we did with tuning issues. Okay, so we're going to replace the root with a 9th degree, okay? Okay, that's the dominant 7th arpeggio. So it's exactly the same shape, but all we do is just lower that 7th degree. So you see what I mean by using the major arpeggio as a template and just altering according to the formula of the arpeggio that you're playing. Okay, so dominant. Fingering wise here, I'm going 1, 4, 2, 1, 4. On the B string I'm using 2 and then going to 1 and 3 at the top. It works really great, that fingering. Okay, so that's the dominant 7th arpeggio. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to flatten the 3rd degree of that. So we're going to keep the formula exactly the same, 1, 3, 5, 7, but we're going to take the 3rd degree and lower it. So we get 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. And that yields a minor 7th arpeggio. Okay, so again, all we're doing is altering one note at a time with each arpeggio. It's much more logical that way. It makes a lot more sense. So before we had, so now we're going to get, lower the 3rd. So we get this shape. Do it once more. Good. You'll hear me doing that all the time when I'm soloing. You know, it's just very comfortable shape. Feels great to play. And again, I'll use it as a template and just add notes to it. You know, that kind of thing. So this is how I use these arpeggios and why I deem them as being, you know, an integral part of my improvisation. So that's the minor 7 arpeggio. Right, now we're going to look at the minor 7 flat 5 again. We're starting where we left off. Okay, we're going to take a minor 7 arpeggio formula, 1 flat 3 5 flat 7, but we're going to flatten the 5th, so we get 1 flat 3 flat 5 flat 7. So before we had, here's the 5th, lower it. Great sounding arpeggio. Okay, so all we're doing is just literally lowering the 5th degree in every instance. So this is how easy it is. Once you compare your arpeggios to other arpeggios, it's so easy to just make a slight alteration to give you a different arpeggio just by using a different formula, you know, just changing one note. You know, that's the beauty of doing it this way. So finally we have, from our minor 7 flat 5, we're going to play a diminished 7th arpeggio. So before we had 1 flat 3 flat 5 flat 7, what we're going to do is we're going to take that flat 7 and we're going to play a double flat 7, which sounds the same as a 6th degree, but theoretically we need to call it a double flat 7. Okay? Minor 7 flat 5, diminished 7th. Okay, then continuing on. You'll have played these arpeggios or heard them a lot, especially when in minor thirds. That's just the very nature of this arpeggio being a symmetrical, coming from a symmetrical scale. Okay, so what we have is 7, 10, 8, 6. I'm using 1, 3, 2, 1 here. So 6, 9, 8, 6, 9. In fact, I actually swap between using just first, second and third, and first, third and fourth. You know, just find a fingering that works for you and you know, stick with that. You know, that's the best thing. So those are our 5 essential 7th arpeggio shapes, and I deem them totally essential when it comes to improvisation. The way that I articulate these is more of a sort of legato kind of articulation rather than picking every single note. But you know, it's important to try various different ways of articulating these shapes, you know, depending on what kind of sound that you're going for. So I like to vary them. So what I usually do is actually pick the first note on every string, hammer the next, and then when I descend, do left hand only. You know, it really flows. You know, it's got that fluid sound, but you know, what I would say is that you investigate various ways of articulating these shapes. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you want more lessons, make sure you head onto my website. I've got a whole ton of downloadable content over there, so I'll leave the link in the description box below. Please check that out, and it's a great way of supporting what I do, so I can make more videos like this. I also do Skype lessons at the moment, so I'll leave the link in the description box below if you're interested in those. Okay, hope you've enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one. Cheers, guys. Hey there guys, it's Rick here and welcome to Rick's Guitar School. Okay, let's get cracking with today's lesson. Today we're going to take a look at how we can inject a little bit more coolness to our Dorian improvisation. I'm going to be using something that you should already know in order to create this specific approach. So it's always useful to keep that in mind when you apply this approach, because it makes life a whole lot easier if you're using something that you already know that's actually relatively simple. Okay, so let me explain it a little. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the triads that belong in a major key. For instance, let's say D major. Well, in actual fact, that's the key that we're going to be needing because our backing track is in E Dorian. So this is the relative major scale, or the parent major scale. And we need to know the triads within any major key, which are the sequence of triads: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, because we're going to be needing that to create our chords with. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to alter one of the notes in each of those triads. We're going to take the third degree and lower it to play the second degree. So we are replacing each third in the triad with a second. What that gives you is a series of suspended sounding chords which give it a really fresh, cool vibe. And instead of actually improvising with chords, what we're going to be using is just those chords as a framework to create phrases and sequences and patterns with. And it can really, as I say before, inject a whole lot of coolness into your improvising. And it's really, really useful if you're still stuck in that 3-note per string rut that a lot of us get stuck in. So this will help you out a ton. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the triads, and then we'll change those that third degree, alter the third degree, and see how it sounds. Firstly, I'm just going to go through the triads on the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings. You can do it on the lower strings as well, but I'm just going to stick with those strings. We're going to do the 3rd, 2nd and 1st as well shortly, but I'll show you these first. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the first available shape that we can apply it to, which is the triad, the 3rd triad in our key. So we're in the key of D major. We're actually in E Dorian, but as I said before, it's the parent scale is D major. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the 3rd triad, which is F sharp minor. Okay, that's our first triad. And what we'll do is we'll play each triad diatonically by step. So here's our 3rd, that's F sharp minor. The next one available will be the 4th, which is G. Then A, which is the 5th. B minor, the 6th. C sharp diminished, the 7th. And then up to D, which is the 1st. E minor, which is the 2nd. And then we're back to, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 3rd degree in the 3rd chord, and we're going to replace it with a 2nd. And we get this. That's sounding pretty cool already. So that's our first shape. It's actually the first shape that's available to us using this particular group of strings. So the next available shape is our G major triad. And again, we're going to be taking that 3rd degree and lowering it to the 2nd, replacing it, and we get this, which is a suspended 2nd sound. Very open sounding, really fresh as well. Okay, we're going to take our 5th chord now, which is A major. Take the 3rd degree, lower it to the 2nd or 9th, however you want to look at it. And that's what we get, same shape again. We're going to move up. That's a B minor chord. Here's our 9th or 2nd. So far we have. Okay, our next shape, which is C sharp diminished. Okay, we're going to replace this note. It's a bit of a stretch, this one. Okay, very cool sound. Okay, the next one is D major. Replace the 3rd with the 9th or 2nd. We get our suspended second again. E minor. Surprise, surprise, we get a suspended second, and the F sharp is a repeat, which is this one up an octave. Okay, good. Now we have our chords. Let's hear them over a backing track. And you'll hear how cool these sound. Just bear with me. Okay. So here's number 1. 2. Number 3. Number 4. And our 5th shape. Next one is the same as the first one, but up an octave. These also sound really good when you arpeggiate the notes. Okay, so really, bear with me. Very, very cool, open sounding those. What I like to do is, these are just examples. You can take the first shape, ascend on it. Like that kind of thing. That gives you a nice sequential pattern that you can use. You can do stuff like this as well. That sounds really, really cool. So what I'm going to do is take it a little, well, I won't take it a bit further. What we'll do is we'll look at how the shapes look on the next group of 3 strings. So the 3rd, 2nd and 1st string. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here. This is actually taken from our chord number 5 triad, which is A major. Turn the volume up. And again, we're going to take the 3rd degree and replace it with the 9th, and we get... Okay, so that's our first shape. Our second shape looks like this. And that comes from chord 6. Okay, next shape looks like this. Next shape like this. Next shape like this. Okay, so I'll do that nice and slowly again. Okay, they're exactly the same chords as the ones that we had on strings 4, 3 and 2, but we've just transposed them onto a different set of strings. So these are really, really useful in opening up a new sound world to you when you're improvising, and it really, really takes your playing in a completely different area than it would with your regular 3-note per string shapes. So I urge you to explore this particular idea as much as you can, because you can start changing those notes within the chords that I've given you in a completely different way and come up with some brand new sounding stuff. So get exploring. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Stay tuned for the next one coming very soon. Okay, take it easy, guys. Hi there, guys. It's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. Today we're going to be taking a look at intervals. And I'm not talking about the intervals that are contained within a major scale. Well, I am talking about intervals that are contained within a major scale, but I'm talking about intervals that we play simultaneously. So I'm going to take a key center. In this instance, I'm going to take the key of A major. And instead of playing, you know, a monophonic line, or you know, just the scale ascending linearly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to harmonize it with every single note that's contained within the major scale. So what that means is we're going to be playing the major scale, but above that we're going to take every interval contained within the major scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to harmonize it in seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths and sevenths. So these are all diatonic to the key, okay? So we're not using any notes that do not belong in this major key, okay? So there's a couple of little pointers that I want you to be aware of here. It's really important to be aware of the sound world that this creates, because there's a number of different ways of looking at it. You can look at it as just two notes played together to create harmony, okay? Or you can look at it as two individual voices, two lines, two independent lines. However, what I suggest you do is look at it in both ways, because they're both beneficial. Especially looking at them, treating each one as an individual line. That's very, very important. Okay, so I will stop babbling on and I'll show you exactly what we're going to be doing. So A major scale. So if we think about it, okay, this is what we're going to be getting underneath, but I'm going to be playing the major scale starting from the second degree, like that, okay? But if we play those two together, we get this. See what I mean? So creates harmony, but also we can treat them as two separate independent lines that are kind of they are kind of interdependent in one respect, but I think it's really important to view it from both of those perspectives. Okay, so I'll shut the hell up, let me do it again. Okay, we can continue on and play it. All the way up, sorry, I meant to play that. But I just want to keep it simple for now. So those are the seconds, let me do it once more. Important to do it slowly so that you can really hear the notes. Okay, so those are seconds. Now we move on to the next. We're going to keep the lower part the same. Okay, but instead of starting at the second degree with the higher part, we're going to start at the third, and we end up with thirds, okay, obviously. So let's play. Very pleasant sounding, very consonant sounding interval, okay. So let me do that once more, thirds. Again, use your ear to hear the separate lines that these create. Okay, next, fourths. Okay, if I can play it a little bit further on, a bit further up. Like so. We can do that with every one. So those are the fourths. Fifths. So we play the same scale, but a fifth higher simultaneously. So we end up with this. Okay, we can keep going. So on. What's really important here, I'll just stop at this juncture here to explain that it's important to choose good fingerings here that will allow each note to sustain for its full rhythmic duration. So that's something that you have to work on to get the fingerings right. I'm not going to go into it right now. I will be doing more videos about this because I'm completely obsessed with this now, and I'm studying it every single day, you know, applying it to different scales, which you should do. So, you know, pay attention to the left-hand fingerings that you use, okay? So, where were we? We did fifths. Sounds great. Let's do sixths, okay? So, played simultaneously. So, okay, could keep going all the way up, you know. So those are six. Very, very nice, again, consonant sounding interval, okay? And then finally we end up with sevenths. So these are very similar to the seconds that we played, very dissonant sounding, but still, I love these. I'm, you know, constantly doing seconds and sevenths. So we're going to play, but then the lower part, a seventh higher, okay? So what do we get? Nice and steady, so that you can really hear everything. Okay, you could move, as I did before, bollocks. Okay, those are the sevenths. You've got to know these back to front. But, you know, it's okay to make this occasional mistake. We're all human beings, after all. Anyway, so let me play them all again, one after the other. So seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths. Nice and steady. Thirds. Fourths. Okay. Why do I laugh in the middle of every video? I have no idea. Just find everything funny. Sixths. I'll keep going. Okay, then sevenths. They sound great. I love the sound of these. They're really, really awesome. What I will get into in future videos, because I'm going to do more on intervals, is how we can extend those intervals just by using sort of pasting specific intervals together. Like, for instance, if we're staying in the key of A major, instead of just playing a seventh here, sorry, a second interval. Well, it's actually a minor second, but you know, I'm just thinking in terms of the key of A major. If I paste another second interval together with that, we end up with this beautiful, oops, this beautiful voicing. It's a bit awkward that, but there we go. So I will get into that in due course. So here endeth the lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it. There's lots of stuff here to keep you busy for some time. So explore the fretboard, do as much exploring as you can. Thank you for checking out this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. Hey there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well. I know I am. Welcome to today's lesson. What have I called it? Yes, I know what I've called it. The best lesson you've never had. Okay, actually that's wrong on 2 counts. For one, you may well have had this lesson. And for two, it's not necessarily the best lesson either. It's you know, extremely important, and this is why I'm showing it you. And it pertains to improvisation and fretboard knowledge. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You know, talking about titles, it's one of the things that I find the most awkward when I'm doing YouTube videos. You know, I do the video and then I sit there going, what am I going to call this? How about this? No, that's crap. Okay, how about this? No, that's crap. What about this? No, that's utter shite. And I sit there for hours just going, man, I can't think of a title. But anyway, I managed to think of a title for this. But when I do put titles in, I get absolutely trounced in the comments section for it. But hey, it is what it is. So anyway, I'm digressing again. So let's get straight to the heart of the matter. We're going to work on a great technique that opens up the fretboard to give you more fretboard knowledge and specifically to allow you to improvise more freely without worrying whereabouts you are on the fretboard. You know, that was a big thing for me, and I've spent many years to try and feel comfortable in every single area of the fretboard and put myself in those awkward positions so that I really know where I am when I move positions. So I don't want any area of the fretboard where I don't know what I'm doing in terms of the shapes and the harmony, the chords, okay? So this is extremely important. So let's get straight to it, okay? First off, the key to this, what I'm going to show you, is to stay in one position when we are moving through a chord progression. Rather than moving all the way up the fretboard like this, we want to stay in one position when we're playing chords. And we want to do the same thing with scales as well. We don't want to be moving our scales around. We want to be able to stay in one position and change the scale accordingly, according to when the chords change. Okay, so first thing is you need 5 shapes for this example, so I'm going to show you what the shapes are. Okay, so our first shape starts here, root on the 6th. Okay, that's the other important thing. We need to know exactly, with the chords that we're playing, where the root is for that chord. Okay, so root is on the 6th, there. Okay, you'll notice that looks just like an E7 shape, but it's movable up to the 3rd fret, so that's G7. Okay, second shape, what we're going to do is just change the position here, so we're going to use our 3rd finger. And we're going to play this, which is a G7 shape, okay, which happens to be the open shape anyway. Okay, so we've got 2 chords with the root on the 6th. Okay, then the next shape we want is this, which looks like the A7 shape. It's actually a C7 sounding chord. And the root is here on the 5th string. Okay, good. Next chord shape here. That looks like an open C7 chord, but it's here, so it's a D7 chord. Okay, and our root is here. So we've got 2 chords with the root on the 5th string. Then finally, the last chord, the root on the 4th string, looks like this. And that looks like an open D7 chord. Okay, so our root note is here. So we've only got 1 chord whose root is on the 4th string. So all the others, we have 2 chords with a root note on each string. So let me just repeat that so you're fully aware of it. First chord shape is this with the root on the 6th. Next chord shape with the root on the 6th is that. Okay. Next, 5th string. Okay, and then finally this shape. So you've got to memorize those chords in those positions. Okay. So perfect example to show you how this works is with a blues progression. So we're going to use a simple 1-4-5 chord progression. All the chords are dominant chords. So in the key of G, we would have G7, C7, D7. Okay, so this is our first position, and notice that I'm staying in the same position. I'm not moving at all. All the chords exist in this area of the fretboard. Okay, so we have to put a scale with each one of those chords, and that's what we're going to do right now. G7, so our scale will look like this. Okay, those are the notes that fit around this chord. Okay, it's okay to move either a semitone lower or a semitone higher within a position, but no more than that. Okay, so once more. So that's the scale that fits with this chord. Incidentally, it's Mixolydian mode, so formula is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, okay? And now that stays the same with each one of our scales, the formula, that is. So we're going to now move to our 4 chord, which is C7, so that's the A7 shape, right here. Okay, so root on the 5th, so we've got the root movement goes from 1 to 4. So the scale that fits with this is this. More. Good, and then we go to our 5 chord, which is here, D7. Okay, and the scale that fits with that is okay. So we have our root movement, 1, 4, 5, the chords, and the scales that fit with the chords. So when you move from 1 to 4, you have to change your scale accordingly. So, and again, we've just stayed in that one area of the fretboard. Good. Right, now we get to the next position. So here's our G7 chord. The next available position for a G7 chord is this. It's our D7 shape, okay? So now what we have to do is we have to find G7, C7 and D7 in this area of the fretboard, okay? So the best thing to do is look for our roots. So root movement, 1, 4, 5. Remember what I said before about the root of each chord? Okay. Our 4 is here, and because it's here with a little finger, if we moved up here, we're moving out of position, so we've got to stay in position. We end up with this, remember the G7 chord shape, which is down here? That's our 4 chord, okay? So we have, and then staying in the same position, here's our D7. Okay, so scales. Okay. And for this one, I've already done this one back here. Okay, good. So that's all the chords, the 3 chords for the blues in this area of the fretboard with the scales to fit. Okay, you see where I'm going with this? Good. Really essential, this. Okay, now we're going to move to the next available position. So we've had root, root. Where's the next available root for a G? It's here. Okay, and we're going to do the next position. See, we've just moved up here. We're not missing any area of the fretboard here. So we end up with the C7, open C7 chord shape here for the G. So our root movement, 1, 4, 5. So here's our first chord. C. And then, can you see what we did there? Okay. So there's our first chord with a root here. And then the 4 chord and then the 5 chord. Okay, and again we've shifted out of this position, we're into the next position. So, scale. Okay. Good, so that's the next available position. So let's move to the next, let's find our next position. So we've had G here, where is the next available G note? It's here. So if our root is here, we don't want to miss out, I'm sorry, I've just missed out a position here. It's here, it's the same note, but we're going to use the index finger, okay? So we play the A shape here, okay? So we've already played G7, so our root movement, 1, 4, 5, okay? So we're going to put this an octave lower, because otherwise that would mean we'd have to change position for this chord. So we have, and again we're staying in the same position. So scale. Chord number 4. Sorry. And then chord number 5. Whoops, bollocks, I'm messing it up here. Okay, good. And then the final position, the one that I jumped ahead and did before, is our G root. So we want 1, 4, 5. Okay, so here we play the G, open G shape here, then the D7, C7 shape. In this chord, it's a C7 anyway. And then finally, this shape, the D7 shape, which is a D7. Okay, so let's do the scales that fit with those. So that's our first chord. Then to the 4. And the 5. Okay, good. And then we've done all the positions. We're back to G7. Okay, good. So hopefully you see the value in this specific lesson here. What we're doing is we have to be aware of, for one, the root movement of each chord. So we're playing a blues, 1, 4, 5, all dominant chords. So you need to know where the root is for each position. And then put the chord with each root note. Bollocks. And then all the way to the top, okay? And you've got to put the scale with each position. And again, like I said before, you're staying in the same position for all 4 chords. See what I mean? So this allows you to be completely free with your improvisation. So wherever you find yourself on the fretboard, you will know where you are because you'll have practiced those 3 chords in every single position available. Okay, so I found this when I first really came across this and started to practice it. I found it completely liberating in terms of, you know, being free on the fretboard. It just blew my mind how much more comfort it gave me, and sort of gave me the freedom to try lots of different things once I'd really, you know, established those basic blues changes, you know. It's just such a powerful tool. So this is why I'm sharing it with you guys. So first step is to practice those 5 shapes. Make sure you know them back to front and apply it to a blues progression, because you can keep it nice and simple. And the blues is just such an important part of developing your improvisation skills, in my opinion. It's the foundation for jazz, basically. So it's essential that you develop, if you want to develop your improvisation skills, you've got to be able to you know, negotiate blues changes. And remember as well, we stay in one position and alter your chord and your scale accordingly, okay? Notice I didn't do any 3-note per string things here, because that completely moves out of position, and we don't want to do that. We want to stay in one area of the fretboard. 3-note per string stuff is really useful. I still practice it a lot now, but when you're doing this kind of thing, it's not required, okay? So I think here endeth the lesson. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you practice hard with this kind of stuff. And what I used to do is go to the areas of the fretboard that I felt less comfortable with and work on those. Because the ones that you're going to be comfortable with are obviously the first position. Because that's where everybody starts. It's a bit like when you're playing scales. Everybody's comfortable with the first position of a major scale. By the time you get higher up on the fretboard, or to position 7, that's when people start losing it, because they practice from position 1 rather than practicing position 7. So you've got to work on the weaker areas of your fretboard knowledge and you know, build them into strengths. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers. Hi guys, it's Rick here and welcome to this video. I had a lot of messages about an improvisation that I uploaded to my YouTube channel recently. It's the one with the subtitle Working on Phrasing, and the majority of you guys wanted the backing track, so I've decided to make it available for you. But also I'm just going to give you a couple of hints and tips regarding improvising, how you can improvise over it, but how you can improvise in general. Not how you can, but how I approach it, so you can take from it what you will. Firstly though, if you get the opportunity, please check out the HD Guitar Lesson store of my website. Lots of lesson material on there that you can check out, economy picking stuff, legato stuff, all sorts, so please do check it out. Okay, so the backing track that I've made for you is in D Dorian, so it's kind of a static thing. It's basically D, F, G, that kind of thing, but it's more of a static groove. But lots of different things that you can apply to this, but I'm just going to talk about how I approached improvising over it, the key elements that I tend to use when I'm improvising. So firstly, phrasing, the essential thing. So within phrasing, and it's also articulation, the way that you articulate the phrases. So I'm talking about things like sliding, string bending, vibrato, you know, whether you use legato, alternate picking, economy picking, all of those elements, you know, it's important to be in control of those as much as you can. But in particular, I want to talk about how I use ideas to, number one, practice scales, but also make them musical. Okay, because this, when I started doing this kind of opened the door to improvising for me. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this. When you put a backing track on, you get a bit pissed off with yourself because you end up playing scales up and down, and you don't seem to be able to come out with any phrases. It's just scales up and down. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a way that you can break out of that, but also give you some fantastic ideas when it comes to improvising. So you're killing two birds with one stone here. So this is how I practice it, and I still do it now. What I'll do is pick a scale that I'm working on. In this instance, backing track's D minor, so well, it's D Dorian, but we're going to do, just for example, just to make it easy, D minor pentatonic scale. Okay, so let's say you put on a backing track and you just seem to be playing the scale up and down constantly. What I would do is take a rhythmic or melodic phrase or motif, okay, and just play it. So here's our little motif. Okay, really simple, but nice. Okay, then what I do is take that little motif and then apply it to the whole scale. So instead of playing, all day long, what you do is apply the little motif to every to the whole position. So you end up with this. And you've got something nice and musical already. So, and then you can start extending it just a little bit. But I don't want to jump ahead. So that's how I would practice it. That enables me to break away from these finger movements of falling into the box patterns. And this is not just the minor pentatonic scale, this can be with the major scale as well. So, add a bit of vibrato as well. The slides really make it sound interesting. Okay, I changed the note here. You can start extending it. Once you've practiced that, then you can apply it to your different positions. So second position, whoops. Okay, and then you can take two positions and put them together like this. Okay, so we're in a much more musical realm than the realm of playing scales up and down. We've got some ideas, but we're still using the scale shapes and practicing our knowledge of scale shapes on the fretboard. So you can do that with position 1 and 5. Okay, sounds musical already. So that's the kind of thing that I would do. You can extend the phrase a little bit, add an extra note in. Then it starts to become musical, All of that didn't sound anything like a scale, even though I was thinking about the positions, the scale positions that I was in. It's more about the phrase that I'm playing or the motif that I'm playing and where I can let it take me. Okay, so that was a nice little phrase. Now, see what I did there? I played a phrase that was kind of like a question, and then the second phrase was more of an answer. That leads me on to the next part. When I improvise, what I try and do is come out with phrases that are kind of like a question-answer thing, because it gives more, there's more meaning to what you play, So I'll start with a phrase like I've just played there, and then there you've got a question and an answer. Then you can continue it. And then you're into a completely different realm already. I love this part of improvising because it's a whole world that you can explore. And it's really, really exciting to do. And it breaks you away from doing monotonous scales up and down. I actually love doing that anyway, so it's not a problem for me. But this is a great way to enable you to number one, practice your scales, but at the same time, work on improvising and coming out with decent, tasty phrasing. Okay, the other thing is note choice. That's really important. It's important when you improvise to know what the intervals that you're playing are against the given chord. Okay, you need to be able to do that. One thing that really helps is to be able to sing phrases and then play them. So I'm not going to attempt to sing it, but that was in my head before I actually played it. So what you want to do is test yourself to see if you can sing a phrase and then repeat it. Let's make it up. Let me phrase it differently. See what I mean? There you go. That's come from here. It's not come from your fingers. You're thinking about a phrase, you sing the phrase, and if you're anything like me, you crucify the phrase when you sing it. So apologies for that. But it's music that comes from within rather than just, you know, muscle memory. You know, muscle memory is useful, but you need to be able to come up with phrases and play them instantly. So you need to tune into your knowledge of intervals, and you can do that just by practicing intervals on their own and hearing, internalizing the sound of them, not playing finger movements like here's a minor third, here's a fifth, just through finger movements. Internalize the sound of them so that when you hear it, you instantly know what it is. Anyway, I'm rambling on here. So those are some of the main points that I use. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I use speed in improvising, and then we'll wrap up. The way I tend to use speed, the most effective way for me is what I'll do is I'll keep the timing solid and rigid to a beat, specific beat, whether that's quarter note, eighth note, 16th note, whatever. Usually if it's faster, it's usually 16th note. So I will keep the timing rigid, but then toward the end of it, I will start floating over the beat. So I'll speed up the legato or whatever it is that I'm doing and let it float over the beat. And that has a really cool sound to me. I love the way that sounds. If you're playing constantly in time the whole time, I find it can be pretty boring. Not always, depends who's playing, but with my playing, what I like to do is mix it all up. So you'll find an example of that in the legato. There's a fast legato section in the improvisation, so do check it out. It's in about the middle of the improvisation, I think. So you can get an example of how that works. In fact, here it is. Okay, let's wrap up this lesson. Really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed digging into the backing track and putting some of the ideas I've talked about to good use. Don't forget to check out my website as well for all other lesson content. Okay, hope you enjoyed. Speak to you soon. Hi there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. Today we're going to take a look at the melodic minor scale. And I'm aiming this tutorial at the rock player that's kind of looking to branch out and play a little bit beyond sort of the normal rock scales, you know, standard diatonic stuff and modal stuff. So I'm going to give you the approach that I took with this kind of thing and give you some hints and tips, hopefully some ideas of different ways that you can approach the scale, and you can apply that to other scales that you already know. So we will get into that in due course. So firstly, what is the melodic minor scale? Well, there's a number of different ways of looking at it. We can see it as a Dorian mode with a major seventh, or a major scale with a flattened third. So if we're in the key of G, I'm going to use the key of G because that's the backing track that I'm going to be using, demonstrating the scale over. So we're going to start here. So what we have is okay, so 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 roots. So as I said before, you can either see it as a Dorian mode with a major seventh or a major scale with a minor third in it. I prefer to kind of see it as just a melodic minor scale, to be honest, but whichever way helps you, any way that assists you in learning the scale is going to be useful. So, okay, back when I first learned this scale, as I said before, I come from a kind of rock background where I did 3 note per string practice the whole time to learn the scale shapes all the way across the fretboard. So I applied that approach to this scale. Why not indeed? There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to play each single position for you to play along with. So 1 through 7. Okay, let's do it. Okay, good. Now that's all 7 positions with 3 notes on every single string. Now what I want to do is kind of take a kind of different approach to learning this scale, and one of the things that really helped me was to approach the scale in terms of thirds, because it's got this, the makeup for this particular scale has got a very distinctive pattern, and if I show you exactly what I mean, there are a sequence of minor thirds and major thirds within the scale, and I'm just going to show it to you just on one string. It's a really useful way of approaching it, but we are going to use pairs of strings shortly. But we're going to start here. So we're going to organize it in terms of thirds. So to start with, we get the first and the third degree, so that's a minor third. Then we get another minor third. Then we get 3 successive major thirds. Then a minor third, then a minor third, and we're back to the start again. So okay, so let's hear that over the backing track. Okay, good. So that actually really helped me to kind of identify where I was within the scale. Rather than relying on 3 note per string scales, it's a little bit of a haphazard way of doing it and doesn't kind of encapsulate the sound of a chord very well if you're just running scales up and down. So I found that identifying where those major thirds were and where the minor thirds were in terms of the scale really helped me. That's one approach that we're going to use, and you can do that on every single string. So starting from the first note, it's a minor third, so we get minor third, major third on the third, another major third starting on the 4th degree, another major third starting on the 5th. So the major thirds come on the 3rd, 4th and 5th degrees of the scale. So if we start here, that's our 4th degree, so we know that that's the 2nd of our major thirds. You can see where I'm going here. It's really useful. If we go on to the D string, we get a major 7th here. In fact, let's start here at the 6th. Minor third, 7th is a minor third, root is a minor third, 2nd is a minor third, major third, and so on. It makes it so much easier to learn. You can do that all the way across our strings here. So we're approaching this rather than in a vertical fashion, we're doing it in a horizontal fashion. Really useful, that. One thing I like to do is start on the 6th degree of the melodic minor scale, because what that does, it organises our major and minor third intervals so they're easier to spot. So we get a succession of 4 minor third intervals and 3 major third intervals. So I hope you're following me here. So we're starting on the 6th degree of a G melodic minor scale. So we get minor third, minor third, minor third, minor third. So a succession of 4 minor thirds followed by 3 major thirds. And we can just keep going. So that really helps me to identify, to sort of separate the scale. So the other thing about this scale as well is that if you take scale segments, if we start on the 7th degree, we get essentially a small segment of a half whole scale. Half whole. Okay? But from the 3rd degree, we get a whole tone scale. So there's lots of different ways that you can approach the melodic minor scale. Rather than just seeing it as just shapes to learn, you can really sort of take the scale apart and work out what the thirds are, and this really helped me no end to learn the scale, you know, because it forces you to think sort of more intervallically than shape wise, you know. Because shapes, there's no getting away from shapes as guitar players. We play shapes constantly on the instrument. However, we can sort of change our perception of it by thinking in terms of intervals, thinking intervallically, and it will really help you break out of the monotony of just running scales up and down, because that's where I find a lot of frustration comes from. It just literally scales up and down, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of musical element to what we're playing. However, it's still important to practice those 3-note per string scale shapes, because there are, there's a benefit with all sorts of approaches, and learning it 3-note per string is going to help you as well. But if you do it in conjunction with this kind of intervallic way of thinking about the scale, I think you'll really benefit. So what we can do with the thirds, rather than just keeping it on one string, let's do it with pairs. So if we start here on the root, we get 2 minor thirds, then we're on to a major third. So that's our succession of 3 major thirds. Minor third, minor third, minor third, major third. Okay. So once we've done that, we can apply a sequential pattern to it. So that's literally just taking the third, ascending through it from the root, and then descending on the next third. And then just repeat the pattern. Descending. So hopefully that's given you some ideas as to how you can sort of incorporate the melodic minor scale into your vocabulary and do it in a much more musical way than just playing scales up and down. But that is why I've included the 3-note per string melodic minor shapes, because they're still useful. So I'd advise you to practice this particular scale and all scales in as many different ways as you possibly can. I'm going to continue this series with some melodic minor ideas, so I hope you've enjoyed this first session. So look out for more videos coming very, very soon. And to finish, please check out my website, still 20% off. So I will leave the link in the description box below, so click that, check that out, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys. Hi there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. Well, I'm pretty knackered at the moment, but aside from that, I'm doing rather spiffingly indeed. So today we're going to take a look at building speed. So I'm going to talk to you about, give you some hints and tips and talk to you about the way that I approach building speed on the guitar. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified whenever I upload a new video. Okay, let's get straight to it. I hope you enjoyed that little video as I did at the start of this video, because that's going to be pretty much the subject of what we're going to talk about. However, we're not going to do what I did, which is speed bursts across 6 strings. We're just going to limit it to just a pair of strings, so that you can, it basically condenses the movement, which is the problem area for most guitar players, is negotiating your way from one string to the next. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at, okay? So we're going to break it down. To start with, we're just going to take 2 notes here. So we're going to take fret 12 of the B, fret 14 of the top E. Okay. So whenever we play scales, whenever we cross strings, we usually do it in one of 3 ways. If you're an alternate picker, you'll do it in one of 2 ways. That is using inside and outside movement with a pick. But I'm going to include economic movement for those that do economy picking, which I do an awful lot. but I want to concentrate on those 3 movements when negotiating your way from one string to the next. Okay, so let's start with number 1, outside movement. What exactly is that? So if we take these notes, if I start with a downstroke and then follow it with an upstroke on the B, so down, up, the pick is traveling outside of those 2 strings, the B and the E, okay? Okay, so that's outside movement. Inside, we start with an upstroke, which means the pick is traveling when we negotiate our way from the B string to the top E. We're doing an upstroke to a downstroke, so the pick is moving inside the 2 strings. Okay, so the third is economic movement, so economy picking basically, where we go to the next string with the same stroke, down, 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 down. Self-explanatory this. The pick moves from the shortest distance possible from one string to the next, hence the term economy picking. Okay, so those are the 3 movements we're going to be dealing with. Okay, so let's start with, I'll give you a few tips in terms of what I practice. I generally use this to kind of warm my way into playing. Okay, so let's start with outside picking. So just doing this on its own is great practice. Like I said before, we're condensing everything down to just the problem area, which is the string cross. Okay, with the outside movement, and then we can do the same obviously with the inside movement. Okay, now what I like to do is do dotted rhythms like this. Okay, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Okay, so we're building the speed with the string cross, not necessarily the notes that we play on any given string. It's the speed with which we cross the string, because that how fast we can negotiate that string cross really determines how fast we can play the scales. Okay, and we really want to control that movement as much as we possibly can. So doing dotted rhythms is great for that, for practicing that. Okay, inside. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Sorry, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Okay, so you get the idea. With the economy picking, it'll be down, down, up, up. The other thing that I want to point out, this is something that most guitarists are guilty of, is when we're working on ideas like this, especially with a picking hand, guitarists are guilty of looking anywhere but where they should be looking, which is what is going on with the right hand. So it's essential to have that visual reference whenever you're working on your picking, because it's very easy to start doing things in a completely different way, or picking in a different way without you realizing it. So always train yourself to have that visual reference by looking at what you're doing at all times when you're practicing these ideas. Okay, just taking that a step further, we could do 3 notes, down, up, down, in quick succession. And then the inside movement. Okay, so those are some of the ways that we can work on negotiating that. Once we've done that, we can take a simple pattern like this. So 12, 13, 15, then the top E. So we play do the same with inside. That was outside. Down, up. And concentrate on that string cross. It's a good idea to play this part slowly and then speed up the string cross. Down, up. Or conversely, up, down, down. Sorry. So we're playing the string cross with speed, okay? So it really helps to do that. And like I said before, you do not want to you want to try and avoid wherever possible, if you're not used to doing this, playing 6-note per string scales and hoping that it will work, because you will waste an inordinate amount of time doing it and making mistakes. So just going straight to the jugular here and dealing with it right to the heart of the problem will get you much, well, it's certainly got me better results quicker. So, and then you can, you know, build the pattern. Because there comes a point where we do want to play the entire scale, of course. But to start with, it's a good idea to work on these things individually. Then it'll give you a fresher approach to playing the entire scale. Okay. So those are the things that I would work on, especially the dotted rhythms. You know, that's a great thing. The other thing, especially with doing this kind of thing, I use a technique called, it's a practice technique called planting technique, where we place the pick on the string in preparation to play. It's a great way of training the right hand to make the minimum movement required. And this works for any of those three transitions when we're crossing from string to string. So inside, outside, economic movement. You know, it works. I mean, economy picking is exactly that, right? When we do a downstroke, the pick rests on the adjacent string. So it is planting technique. So the other thing that I like to do is play 4 repetitions of outside and then switch to 4 of inside. Relaxed when you're doing this, and try and make it sound like you can't hear the difference between changes. Okay, so those are some of the things that I like to use in order to practice building speed with scales. So like I said before, you know, incorporate this into your practice routine, but, you know, certainly don't shy away from trying to play scales fast. We've got to attempt doing it up to speed, but one thing that you shouldn't do is, you know, if you're finding yourself hitting a brick wall, you know, every time and messing it up every time, it's really not a good idea to continue that. You know, come back to these kind of ideas, take it steady, you know, build that control, and then go back to it. Anyway, I think this is the end of the lesson. I hope you've enjoyed what I've talked about, and more importantly, I hope it really helps you with your playing. I'm going to be discussing more approaches to building speed on the guitar, because this is just one approach, you know, and like I said before, this is, you know, this is what I do. Players approach it in lots of different ways, so this is just one way of approaching it out of many different ways. So anyway, like I said before, I hope you get a lot out of this lesson. And stay tuned for the next one coming soon. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Hey guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. I am doing extremely well, but it's also extremely cold here in the UK. And I know some of you guys in other countries like Canada will probably think we're all pussies for whinging about the cold. But honestly, it is damn cold over here. So cold, in fact, that my kitchen water pipes have frozen this morning. But that wasn't a problem. All I did was blast some shred at them, and they soon warmed up. Anyway, I'm babbling on as I always do. So today we're going to talk about expanding our fretboard knowledge, kind of moving on from one of the other lessons that I did. And we're going to talk about playing in a more horizontal fashion than a vertical fashion, and we're just going to take a simple arpeggio pattern. The shapes are also extremely important with what I'm going to talk about here. So it's a combination of playing sort of horizontally, but manipulating simple shapes in order to expand on our fretboard knowledge. And this is not a technical workout, this is not a technical lesson. You know, this is more about sort of, you know, moving out, being able to move out of our normal positions and being stuck in one position, just playing vertically rather than horizontally. You know, so what do I mean by vertical playing? I just mean whenever we play arpeggios like this, that's vertical playing because we're in one position and we're moving in this direction. So horizontal playing is when we move in this direction. I'm going to show you the kind of thing that I practice to improve my fretboard knowledge. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take just a straightforward major 7 arpeggio, and what we're going to do is we're going to play it in one of 4 positions, and it's important to memorize these shapes. You know, the shapes are really important, because as guitar players, whether you a shape player, a shape bass player or interval bass player, it doesn't really matter, you're still playing shapes, you know. So we, as guitar players, we cannot get away from shapes, but it's all about your perception of it. Anyway, I'm digressing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to play an A major 7 arpeggio, okay, but we're going to take 2 notes per string. Some of you may have come across this kind of shape before, and move it up in that fashion, okay. So we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to take the first position, just these 2 notes here. Okay, so we have 4, 5, 4, 7. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to play through the inversions of that shape horizontally, just on this bottom E and A string, so just pairs of strings we're going to deal with here. So we have, that's our first position. The other thing, as a side note, it's really important to know which interval you're playing against the root of that arpeggio. So we're playing an A major 7 arpeggio, so we have the 7th, the root, 3rd, and 5th. Okay. Now we're going to move up to the next position. We started with the 7th here. I'm going to call that position 1, by the way. It's a really comfortable position to play. We're encompassing the root here anyway, even though we're playing 3rd inversion. Okay, so we're going to play the next shape here. Okay, so still playing an A major 7 arpeggio, but we're playing position number 2. So what's that? 5, 9, 7, 11. Okay, so memorize that shape. Okay, so we're playing root, 3rd, 5th, 7th in that order. Okay, next what do we have? We've just played the root, so we're going to move to 1st inversion, and we start at fret 9 here. Nice comfortable shape, this one. Okay, so what do we have? Fret 9, 12, 11, 12. Okay. So interval wise, we have 3rd, 5th, 7th, root. Okay, so that makes up position number 3. And then we're going to go to our final position, position number 4, and we're going to play 12, 16, 12, 16. Okay, so all together, position number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. So we want to memorize those positions. That's extremely important. Now, you remember this pattern that I played here. We can do exactly the same thing, moving up in a horizontal fashion. So this is our position number 1. We're going to play the same thing. It's exactly the same shape. This is why the shapes are important here. So exactly the same shape, up an octave. So that's position number 1. So we're going to take position number 2. Okay, play the same thing up an octave. That's position number 2. So, okay, and again, this is not about technique. This is about unlocking the fretboard and, you know, seeing how all these shapes fit together, and kind of moving away from standard shapes. As useful as they are, you know, it's good to try different things. Okay. So what do we have? We had positions 1 and 2. We move on to number 3 now, which is, okay. That's kind of like an inversion of the first one, shape-wise. Okay, good. So again, we're just going up 2 frets each time. And then finally, position number 4. Okay, so all together, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you want to move up to the root, you can do that. Okay, so now we're doing something that's completely different from our standard, you know, just vertical playing, we're moving into a completely different area of the fretboard, but we're still playing all of the notes of A major 7. We're aware of what the shapes are, positions 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we also know what the intervals are. So we're playing root position, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. Okay, this for me was extremely useful because I can move those shapes around and kind of start anywhere and find my way round, you know. So let's say we were, where were we? Let's say we move it onto the 4th and 3rd strings. From our knowledge of those shapes, I know straight away that that's position number 4. So I can move back down. You can see how that works. Anyway, it's really, really useful. I find it extremely useful. So just as a little extra here, another thing that you can do if you want to play sort of vertically as well with these shapes, using these shapes, really useful way of doing that, keeping it 2 notes per string. Let's say we start in our first position here. Instead of shifting up the same shape, we're going to play the same note on the next string, but what that does is that gives us, we kind of go backwards. Position 1, 4, 3. And by using those shapes, our knowledge of those shapes and positions, it makes it an awful lot easier. We don't have to sort of engage our brain too much and get confused as to where we are. Because what happens a lot of the time with vertical playing is that you play one position here, one position here, one position there, and you don't know how to connect all of these ideas together. So what I would advise you to do is to practice these on pairs of strings. So we've already done it on the E and A strings. Do it on the 5th and 4th strings, the A and D. Okay, that about wraps up this lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to sort of expand upon this lesson a bit more because I want to talk about how we can, because we've only just talked about one arpeggio shape here. One arpeggio, that's the major 7. So there's a very, very easy way by using that major 7 as a template that we can start incorporating other 2 note per string 7th arpeggios, because that's what they are here, just by altering 1 or 2 notes, and we can end up just by using that major, those major shapes as a template, just learning all sorts of different arpeggios extremely easily. So I'm going to talk about that in the next lesson. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. I shall catch up with you guys in the next one. Cheers. Hi there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. Today we're going to take a look at the hybrid pentatonic scale. I know most of you out there are going, what the hell is a hybrid pentatonic scale? But it's not that complicated at all. In fact, it's remarkably simple. So I'm going to explain this basic concept to you. It's a great sounding scale, basically, which is comprised of 2 different minor pentatonics bunged together, cut and pasted together. That's all it is. I'm using a backing track here. I'm using a backing track that I will demonstrate the scale within a bit, but the backing track I'm playing over uses a very, 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 very common chord progression, chord 2 to chord 5. We're actually taking chords from the G major scale, but it's a Dorian family, so we're taking chord 2 to chord 5, okay, which gives us a Dorian feel. Okay, and the first scale that most guitarists go to when playing or presented with a progression like this is, of course, the old A minor pentatonic scale. which is built upon the second degree of our major scale. So we end up with A minor pentatonic. Okay, just as a side note, before we get into me showing you the scale, it's important to understand that we can build a minor pentatonic scale based on the second, third and sixth degrees of any major scale. Let me explain that again. A minor pentatonic scale we can build from the second, third and sixth degrees of the major scale, okay? So same formula, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, okay? So here's G major, here's the second degree, we can take, and that fits with a minor 7, surprise, surprise, A minor 7. Third degree, do the same thing, 1, flat 3, 5, sorry, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, okay? We have a B minor pentatonic, and finally, chord number 6, degree number 6. I'll stay in the same position. That's an E minor pentatonic, again with the same formula. And what we're going to do is, instead of swapping scales, because those scales will work, you can mix them all up when you're improvising. But instead of doing that, I like to create one entire scale by combining two of those pentatonics. In this case, we're going to take the A minor, okay, on the bottom 3 strings, so string 6, 5, 4, we're going to play A minor pentatonic. But on the upper 3 strings, 3, 2 and 1, we're going to play E minor pentatonic. So we have a hybrid pentatonic scale, a combination of 2 pentatonics, A minor, E minor. Great sounding scale, okay? Intervallically, what we have when we play the scale over the A root, we have obviously 1 flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. But when we play the E minor, we have the 9th and 11th extensions added. So it allows us to get more of a sort of fresh, sort of slightly jazzier feel by adding that E minor pentatonic in to create those extensions, the 9th and the 11th. Okay, over this chord we get the 13th added as well. Anyway, don't want to go too into detail there, but this is what we're going to concentrate on. So this will spice up your improvising no end by adding those extensions in. But what we've got to do is treat this as one whole scale, you know, rather than seeing them as 2 separate scales. And as such, we can practice it in the same way that we practice our regular minor pentatonic scales. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So let's do it. We're going to play all 5 positions. Okay, let's go. Okay, so there we have all of our 5 positions of the hybrid pentatonic scale. Like I say before, it's important to practice this just as you would for a minor pentatonic scale. And you can take even, you don't have to play the entire scale when you're improvising, you can just take the upper digressing there with my playing. You can take the upper portion of the... Okay, the upper portion of the E minor pentatonic. Okay, good. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I hope you've got a lot out of it. So get practicing the hybrid pentatonic scale, okay? Just as a little side note, make sure you check out my website. Sale currently on. I will leave the link in the description box below, as always. And it's a fantastic way to support what I do, so I can do more videos like this for you guys. Okay, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers. Hi there guys, Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. Today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about something that has kind of bugged me for a long time, and it's to do with left hand positioning. You know, should I be using one left hand positioning for all of my playing or not? You know, should I use something that's consistent or not? You know, it's taken me a while throughout, you know, all the years that I've been playing. This year is like 27 years, in February actually. 27 years, goddamn. Time flies. So yeah, but for a long period of time I was wondering, you know, whether I should use one consistent left-hand position. But where I am right now is I kind of chop and change between two specific things, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that I do. I mean, it's dependent on what it is that I'm playing, you know, which technique that I'm employing at any given time. Because I spent a period of time where I stuck with one thing for a long time and just thought, oh, this isn't quite working, I'm going to have to change it. And that's generally the nature of who we are as guitar players. We evolve over time, you know, we change. So what you may be doing right now, you know, in 5 years' time, that may change, you know, and it's important to sort of try lots of different things. Anyway, I'm digressing as usual. So there are two basic things that I try and keep in mind when I'm playing, because a lot of the time these days I'm much more of a legato kind of player. I mix techniques generally, hybrid picking, economy picking and legato basically. And for quite some time I'd been practicing this position here where you keep your thumb relatively sort of central on the neck, and it enables you, for me it's really helped my technique, you know, especially for playing legato. The only problem is when it comes to string bends and vibrato, it's quite challenging to do, you know, because it just doesn't, you don't have, for me, I don't have the right purchase on the string in order to be able to have the control that I want when I play. I mean, this is generally to do with the way that I approach things. That I'm not saying it's going to work for you, but because everybody's different. If you look at somebody like Chris Poland, absolutely incredible player, because of that injury he's got with, which finger is it? Can't remember which finger, but it's an injury that he's got. He has to adopt this position, and he just seems to be able to control his intonation and his string bending just, you know, for days. It's incredible. So for some people it may work, but the conclusion I've come to at this point in time is that I switch between two, especially when I'm playing legato. But when I want to add those bends in, I want to use this part of the finger here and use it as kind of a fulcrum, a point with which I can manipulate the left hand position. Kind of, it's a nice counterbalance to any string bending or vibrato that I do, and I seem to have a lot more control over it when I apply this part of the finger here, the index finger, to the base of the neck. You know, it's so much more, you know, controlled, because you've got that, like I say, it's a fulcrum point that allows you to sort of counterbalance the how you manipulate the string, you know, and that's kind of the way that it's worked for me. So ultimately what I'm saying is I like to switch between the two, but it's a very subtle thing. So here I'm not actually doing it at all. So as soon as I went into that slide there, I've adopted the position that I need if I want to do string bends or, you know, wide vibrato. So that's generally how I use left-hand positioning. And what I'm ultimately trying to say here is I don't think there's one golden rule that's going to be applicable, because, as I say, we evolve as players, we change as players, and it's important to try lots of different things out and see, you know, see what works for you. But where I am right now is that when I play, that's kind of what I do. I adopt two general positions for the left hand, you know, and it's kind of, you know, the same for whether I'm playing chords or whether I'm playing single note lines. That's kind of how my playing has evolved. So anyway, it's worth thinking about, you know, because these things can really, really affect how you play, you know. So that is my approach. I hope you've learned something from it. I hope it's been something that's been a little bit thought-provoking that you can think about, and I hope you can benefit from it. So anyway, I will leave you guys to it, and I will catch up with you guys in the next video. Cheers. Hi there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. Today we're going to be taking a look at this major scale, just a simple major scale, and we're going to take a look at a way of making it sound more musical. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Usually when we play scales and practice scales, it's usually for technical purposes. In other words, we want to improve our picking technique, we want to improve our legato technique, hybrid picking technique, whatever technique it is. We usually play scales in order to solve those technical issues. And I think it's very, very important that, as well as practicing the scales to improve our technique, I think it's very important that we approach scales in a musical fashion rather than just a technical one. So that's what we're going to talk about today. In order to do this, what we're going to have to do is, with this particular example, is to reorganize the way that we play the major scale. So more often than not, most players come from two sides. Either it's 3 note per string or the caged thing, in other words a scale that fits around a chord, which means that we play a mixture of 2 notes and 3 notes per string. So 3 notes per string, that, or caged, which fits around the chord shape. What we're going to do is we're actually going to take 3 notes on every string, but we're going to organize them in a specific way. And the main reason for that is so that it enables us to develop a motif, because that's what we're going to be doing, develop a motif and play it sequentially through the scale without skipping notes out. Because especially if we're doing 3 notes per string, if we create a motif, we go to play it through the scale pattern, which is great, that works really, really well, but we're missing some notes out. We're going, sorry, straight from here, straight here. So we've missed out a portion of the scale. So in order to solve that problem, we're going to rearrange it. So I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do firstly. So we're going to keep it in A major, keep it really, really simple. And we're going to take 2 shapes on the low E. Oh, turn it up a bit. So that's the first 2 shapes, okay. Then on the next, so we start on root, 2nd degree, then we're going to move down to the 3rd degree here and play. So 3, 4, 5, and what I'm saying numerically there relates to the interval against the root, okay. Starting on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, okay. Then we move down to the 6th degree and do 3 shapes. Okay, 2nd degree. And then we finish here at the top. Okay, so that's nice and slowly. So that's the pattern that you really need to memorize with this. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply some simple melodic ideas to that scale to make our scale practice sound more musical. Developing motifs, that's really what we're looking at here. So let's take our first position, because we're going to apply that motif to each one of those positions on each string. And we're going to take a simple pattern. We're going to start with slides, because when we create motifs, it's a good idea to utilize some of the unique effects that the guitar allows us to achieve. You know, that sort of portamento slide sound. You know, other instruments just aren't able to do that. So it's a good idea to incorporate these kind of things to make our playing sound more musical. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to play this little motif, okay, to every scale position. All the way up. Okay, we've got something that sounds musical straight off the bat. Taking a motif and applying it to the scale sequentially, in other words, on each step of the scale, works really, really well for coming out with phrases, which will in turn help your improvisation no end. So let's change that up a bit. What we're going to do is add a little bend here with the index finger. Oops. I won't do the full thing, but that sounds really cool. Okay, excellent. You can continue and so on all the way to the top of the scale. So that's one example. Let's try something else. What we're going to do is this pattern, which is a little hammer on and a pull off, okay? Great little idea, that. And especially if you start adding in stuff like vibrato and sliding and string bends, it really helps to create a much more musical sound. So what do we have? On, off, off. I'm just improvising here. See, you can once you get creative, you can come out with all sorts of ideas that will help your scale playing and put you in a much more musical realm than just a technical thing. And I feel that with guitar players, it can become very frustrating when we sit and we play scales for just technical ends, just to improve our alternate picking or economy picking or whatever. It can get pretty frustrating and pretty boring, because what happens is, the more that you do that, the more that will spill over into your improvising. And this is why a lot of guitar players get very, very frustrated with not being able to improvise very well, because what happens is they end up just playing these exercises that they've worked on with their picking technique. And you know, you hear it all the time, and I understand that. It's very frustrating. So there's a time and a place for practicing your technique. You know, do it, but also apply the same kind of focus and dedication that you do to your technique to these kind of musical exercises. You know, they will really, really help your musical development and your improvisation skills, you know. So we don't have to just stick with a major scale. Let's take a melodic minor, for instance. If we take our pattern, so we start with root, second degree, so there's 2 groups on the bottom E string, then it's followed by 3. Another 3. Okay. Okay, so you can apply all these. I would much rather hear something like that than just a scale up and down just for technique's sake. Yeah, I'm talking about in an improvisation, you know. So try and come up with your own ideas, your own little motifs, and apply it to this little shape that we played. I'm doing the melodic minor now. Apply it to those scales and see what you can come up with. Anyway, I hope this has given you some food for thought in terms of making your scales sound more musical. Hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you check out my website. It's 20% off currently, so link is in the description box below, so great way to support what I do. Hope you've enjoyed today's lesson, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers. Hi there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. Yes, I know I've been slacking on the video front of late. I haven't done a proper video for a while. I've been kind of changing my studio setup. I've recently moved it all around because I really wasn't happy with the way things were working out. So I've got a new setup now, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I want to crack on. Got lots of stuff I want to do. Got some demos that I need to be putting out there pretty soon. So stay tuned for more videos. And if you've got any requests for any specific things that you want, stick it in the comment section, and I may or may not answer you. Okay, so today I'm going to explain the last video that I uploaded, which was a pattern that I generally like to practice, and it's a cycle of fourths pattern of dominant seventh arpeggios. But instead of jumping up a fourth every time we play, what I like to do is stay in one area of the fretboard so that I'm covering every single possible shape available on the fretboard with these. You know, you don't have to do it with dominant seventh, you can do it with anything that you like, but that's the example that I'm going to use right now. Okay, so there's a number of reasons why I love dominant sevenths. I absolutely adore the sound of them. They're great way of modulating, and yeah, I practice them all the time. You'll always hear me playing some kind of dominant seventh somewhere. So I'm playing this with hybrid picking as well, so I'll explain exactly how I approach the picking. But again, this is really the highlight. The thing that I really want you to take away from this is you'll be practicing shapes that you probably, if you don't do this, if you're not aware of these shapes, you're going to be practicing shapes which at first feel a bit uncomfortable. But hey, you know, it's important to push yourself regarding this. So let's get straight into it. We're going to do, as I say, cycle of fourths. So we're going to start on E. Okay, but we're not going to play it from the root note. We're going to start from the third degree. So what I like to think of as well when I'm playing each arpeggio is the chord shape around which I'm playing the arpeggio. So in this instance, we're going to be playing this shape, which is based on the C shape, moved up to this position, but we're playing it as a dominant seventh chord, okay? Or we're thinking of this particular shape and playing around it. So we're going to start here on the third degree, okay? So let me show you what the pattern is. Okay, that's the ascending pattern of it. With the right hand, we're just doing a downstroke and hybrid where applicable, you know, hybrid on the upper string. Okay, so we go down, up, shift position, I'm using third finger here, down, sorry, not down, up, down, hybrid, down, hybrid. I pull off here, okay, then I go hybrid, down, hybrid, down, hybrid, pull off, hybrid, down, hybrid, down, hybrid at the top. So all together. Okay, then we're going to, I usually pull off to that. You can hammer on the next note if you want, but I like to hybrid pick that top note when we reverse the pattern. So the reverse pattern is, that's the last note, this is the first, hybrid, down, hybrid, down, hybrid, down, hammer, down, hybrid, down, hybrid, down, hammer, down, hybrid. So Okay, good. Now what's up a fourth from E? E, F, G, A, okay? Whoops. So that's going to be our arpeggio. We're moving up in the cycle of fourths. We're going to be playing an A major, an A dominant arpeggio. So we're going to start at the root here. So it's in root position. So similar kind of patterns. Okay. We're going to pull off here. So it's down, hybrid, pull off, hybrid, down, hybrid, pull off here, hybrid, down, hybrid, down, hybrid, pull off, hybrid, down, hybrid. Oops, sorry. And then simply, you can pretty much reverse the process when you descend through each arpeggio, okay? Okay, what's a fourth up from A? It's D, okay? So we're going to keep it in the same position. We're not going to jump up here. We want to play everything in the same area, okay? So we end up with our different shapes playing around a different chord. So that one was based around the E-shaped chord as a dominant chord at fret 5, okay? So we're going to play, we're going to start here. Oh, sorry. So we're going to have to bar here. Be careful of the notes bleeding together. This pattern is this. Okay, so we're playing around this shape here. Down, hybrid, off, hybrid, down, hybrid, off, hybrid, down, hybrid, pull off. You can hammer that on if you want, do whatever you like, as long as you're playing the arpeggio, you know, nice and cleanly and in a uniform manner, so, you know, no unnecessary accenting. Okay, good. So up from D, D, E, F, G. We're going to start on the third degree here. So we're going to be playing around this kind of like D7 shape, but this is G. We're going to have to skip up here, okay? Oh, sorry. Reverse it. Okay, good. So, up from G, G, A, B, C. So, okay, but we're going to start on the flat 7 here. So here's our regular C, but we're going to be in this position. So this actually covers the G shape for this chord. It's a C chord, C7 chord, but it's based around a G7 shape. If you were to play G7 open here, okay, you with me? Flat 7, so that's the other thing, make sure you know what the intervals are, every interval that you play with the arpeggio. Okay. Notice there's some nice voice leading going on here when you're doing this. Rather than jumping up, if you jump up a fourth, say, you just will not get the voice leading. In other words, you know, smooth voice leading going from one chord to another. So usually resolving by a step each time. That usually works great. Or a semitone, you know. So we've just played, where were we? So here we're going to... So we're back to the shape that we played here for E, so... Sorry. Whoops, bollocks. So here's our shape. Okay. And this is how we're going to end the sequence. Where that end bit comes from. If you do, stick it in the comment section below. Let's play the whole thing through now. Okay. Okay, there we have it. Hope you've enjoyed the lesson today. Make sure you check out my website for all downloadable lessons. That's a great way to support what I do. Okay guys, I will see you in the next video. Cheers. Hi there guys, it's Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. God, it feels like a lifetime ago that I sat down and did one of these videos, but it feels great to be back in the saddle, so to speak. Okay. Let's crack on with today's lesson. I'm going to talk about dominant seventh arpeggios and how I practice them. I did do a video last year about horizontal arpeggios, and this kind of leans in that same direction, but we're going to take it a little bit further than that video. So what I like to do is I like to group these arpeggios in terms of either pairs or groups of 3 strings. And create, base it on numbers of notes per string to create shapes. Okay, so that's how I do it. So usually when I first started practicing these arpeggios, I'll do them in a very vertical fashion, but these days what I do is practice them horizontally. It yields some wonderful things, wonderful sounds, and there's lots of other creative things that you can do rather than just being stuck in this one position, you know. So we're going to take the key of, well, the chord of A dominant 7. But we're going to start here, okay. And I'm going to take the 4th, 3rd, 2nd strings, and I'm going to play in this position A dominant 7. Like that. We don't need to concern ourselves about the outer strings. I'm just dealing with the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings. For this shape, what I'm going to do is omit the root, well, just change it for the 9th. Why? Because it sounds awesome. But also it's more comfortable for the left hand. Okay, so that's our first shape, and we're going to ascend all the way through diatonically, like so. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to follow the 2-note, 1-note, 2-note approach. So 2, 1, 2 on each string. First shape. Now we're going to move up to the next available shape, so no gaps at all. Okay. You can pick this however you want. Next shape. Next shape. Until we get an octave. An octave higher. So I've changed key there. Anyway, those are the shapes that I tend to practice a lot on the inner strings. Okay. The next thing that I like to do is change it up a little bit. So and this is according to our number of notes per string I'm talking about here. So let's take our first shape here. Okay. If I can add an extra note on the top string, so our formula kind of is 2, 1, 3. And we're still following our A7 chord here. That would be the next shape, and this is, like I said before, once you've got a template you can add or subtract things. And it's so creative and yields some wonderful sounds. Okay, this is all diatonic as well. Sounds great. I added an extra note in. I'm preempting myself here. Okay, so hopefully you get the principle that I'm talking about here. We're just taking a template, extending it just by adding one note. Okay. And so on. Okay, that's a wonderful thing. Remember, we're just on the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings here. So we've got all the other groups of 3 strings to explore. I'm just going to take this a little bit further. What if we add a note on the 4th string? So we're playing essentially 3, 1, 3 in terms of number of notes per string. Hopefully you're following me here. So our original shape was this: 2, 1, 2. Then we added an extra note, which is diatonic to the key, to this key, yeah, to create 3 notes on the top. And then I added 3 on an extra note here to create 3, 1, 3. Okay, I mean, that sounds great. And also, the important thing here is that because we're playing around that dominant 7th chord, it encapsulates, even though we've got a lot of information there because we've got a lot of notes in there, it still encapsulates the sound of that dominant chord. You can hear it, and that's wonderful. That's great. So what would we do here? That's a bit more challenging. The good thing as well is, let me also point out, hope I'm not digressing too much here, let me also point out that when you start adding notes like this 3-1-3 thing, it will challenge you in terms of your left hand fingering. So that's another benefit with this kind of thing. So just as an example here, we're using this as our template, but we're adding an extra note here and here. So we're adding the 9th and the 6th. Okay, let me just talk a little bit about fingering. When you keep things diatonic, it usually forces you, it usually makes it a lot more awkward to play for the left hand. So let me just give you an example here of a way you can just use the same fingering but still following the essential skeleton of the chord, so to speak. So, do you remember we added, that's diatonic to the key. However, if I just am lazy, which I am anyway, I'll just play the same fingering on the top 2 strings, the 4th and the 2nd, and listen. Okay, what that gives us is a Lydian dominant sound. So sometimes what I'm ultimately trying to say here is that if you just literally follow a fingering, it can create some absolutely wonderful sounds. And you don't necessarily have to know what you're doing. Just use your ear. If it sounds good and works, then it is. Let me give you another example here. If we move on to the top 3 strings here, let me play it diatonic to the key. Now that is nasty for the left hand. Okay, but if I, like I said before, if I'm lazy and just use the 3rd and 4th here and just keep it the same, but still outlining our dominant 7th, listen to this. That sounds amazing. So ultimately what I'm saying is, don't limit yourself to just sticking to diatonic stuff. It's good practice for the left hand, but you don't have to do that. Just by keeping the same fingering, you can create some wonderful sounds. Anyway, I think I should wrap up because I've been rambling on for too long. So, as I said before, link in description box below for all my website lessons, 40% off, RG Save 40, so get on it and support your boy. All right, I will speak to you soon. Cheers, guys.